establish the jumbled words. In the class, we will going to arrange the number 1 jumbled letters. Yes, Miss Casapo? Humanism. Okay, very good. This is humanism. Number 2. Okay, Miss Jale. Connectivism. Okay, very good. It is connectivism. Next. Okay, Miss Paglangan.
ADHD.
Okay, very good. It is ADHD. Next. Okay, Miss Mutya. Theory. Okay, very good. It is theory. And lastly, number 5, Miss Zamora.
Loss.
Okay, very good. It is loss. So before we will proceed to our main topic, let me introduce to you our learning objectives. So first is to understand the humanism and connectivism learning theory. Second is to identify the symptoms and types of ADHD. And lastly is to explain the changing phase of ADHD and how ADHD affects the brain. So we will proceed now to my topic, which is humanism learning theory. So humanism is a belief system that began in 1960s. When we say humanism learning theory, it is the ability to learn with the fulfillment of needs. Humanism is very closely related to constructivism. Why? Because like constructivism, humanism emphasizes on self-directed learning, where the learners are just given guidance and left to develop learning by their own. So next is humanism directly focuses on the idea of self-actualization. So the main purpose of humanism learning theory is the development of people who become self-actualized. Self-actualized or self-actualization is the highest level of psychological needs and Maslow's hierarchies of needs. In self-actualization, it is a brief moment where person feels that all of their needs are met. Or they're the best possible version of themselves. So in this moment, everyone are striving. And the learning development here is towards the meeting needs or away from their meeting needs. So in humanism learning theory, the teacher should create a classroom environment that can help learners to get closer in their self-actualization. This kind of environment should be conducive in helping students in learning. Teachers should help students fulfill their emotional and physical needs. So in what way? By giving them a safe and comfortable place to learn, providing them plenty of food, and giving them the support they need to succeed. How we can achieve self-actualization? So self-awareness means accepting your strengths and weaknesses and being aware of your action. You are self-actualized human being if you learn to accept and thrive even in the most challenging situations. And lastly, the teaching strategy in humanism learning theory is a student-centered learning often have great success in helping students to learn and grow better. So that's all for my report. Thank you.
So good day everyone, my name is Sherlyn Sapo, and today I'm going to discuss with you the connectivism learning theory. So what is connectivism? So connectivism is one of the newest educational learning theories. It focuses on the idea that people learn and grow when they form connection. So connectivism is closely related from the word connect. So it is based on the principle of active learning, and it is the result of the work of the American psychologist, which is Edward Thorndike. So who is Edward Thorndike? So Edward Thorndike was born on August 31, 1874 in Williamsburg, Massachusetts. He was known for being an influential psychologist who was the founder of modern psychology or modern educational psychology. And he was known for his theory, of course, the connectivism learning theory. So, the work of Edward Thorndike leads to his laws. So, according to his laws, that learning is achieved when an individual is able to form association between a particular stimulus and response. So when we say stimulus and response, is that a stimulus is something that causes a reaction, while response is the reaction to a stimulus. So the connection between the two was known as SR, or was called as SR bonds, or stimulus response bonds. So the common example for this is you are hungry, so you need, or so you eat something. So you are hungry, and because you are hungry, so you eat some food. By eating some food, you will satisfy your hunger and will also receive pleasure. So through that response and behavior you made will be repeated. So Edward Thorndike introduced his laws in order to understand more the function of connectivism learning theory. So he introduced the three primary laws. So according to Edward Thorndike, actually he said that these laws were originally the outgrowth of the experiment in the field of animal psychology. But unfortunately, because of the lack of subject in human, it ended to the animal psychology. Because during that time there's no people who want to volunteer, or there's no people to participate for his experiment about the connectivism. So now let's proceed, or let's discuss the three primary laws. So first is the law of readiness. So the law of readiness is a series of responses can be chained together to satisfy some goal which will result in annoyance if blocked. So in this law, the one example for this is the famous experiment of Edward Thorndike to cat. So let's try to look the example here, where the cat was trapped inside the cage. So the concept here is that the cat will find way on how he or she can able to, or on how she can get out inside the cage if kapag may nakita siyang pagkain sa labas, or kapag nagugutom na siya and natatakam na niyang kainin yung pagkain sa labas. So of course, maghahanap talaga siya ng way or paraan para makalabas. So the idea here is that this law suggests that learning takes place when an action tendency is aroused through preparatory adjustment. So it means a preparation of action. So if we put it in a classroom setting, or if we try to put it in a classroom setting, so if one child or if one student is not actually prepared to learn, then learning cannot be automatically instilled in him. Kasi kapag yung bata is maraming environmental factors that can be hinder to their learning, of course, hindi talaga matututo yung bata. Kasi doon na madadivert yung attention nila. And hindi na sila makafocus sa mismong learning. Kumbaga, hindi na mag-uukoy yung learning na tinatawag natin. So, how can we apply this law in inside the classroom? So, for example, by hooking our learners or our students before we introduce to them our topic or the topic that we're going to discuss with them. So, how? Through activities, or we call it motivation debug. As a future educator, so before we introduce our topic to them, is we magpapa-activity muna tayo para or to give them a clue or ideas if what topic that we are going to discuss with them. So, at this situation, it shows that we let our students to know if what or we let them know if what topic that we are going to discuss with them. So that is the law of willingness. So now let's proceed to the law of exercise. So in this law, the connection becomes strengthened with practice and weakened when practice is discontinued. So in here, like what I have said, based on the famous experiment of Edward Turner Tickat, that the more experiment repeated, the more efficiently and quickly the child is able to provide response or desired outcome. So it means, like for example, again, sa pusa, kapag yung pusa is ulit-ulit yung pinindot yung let's say yung button, and kapag alam niya na kapag pinindot niya yun ng paulit-ulit yung button, and then makakalabas siya, tapos makaka-receive ng pagkain, yun na yung tinatawag nating law of exercise. In this law, suggests that the more practice, it helps in increasing efficiency and durability in learning. So, if we put it again in a classroom setting, as a future educator, if we do some exercise towards our student, they will become more efficient in the subject. So, like for example, if we do some activity, like we exercise them if on how to solve a math problem in terms of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So through that practice and exercise we always apply to them, is talagang mahasa at mahasa sila. It means the more a person practices something, the better he or she is able to retain the knowledge. So that is the law of exercise. So now let's proceed to the last law, which is the law of effect. So now let's proceed to the last law, which is the law of effect. So in here, in this law is that the responses to a situation which follow by a rewarding state of affairs will be strengthened and become habitual to that situation. So according to Edward Turner, that rewards for appropriate behavior is always substantially associations. It means it gives annoyance to the learners. So let's say for example again sa pusa. So kapag yung pusa is paulit-ulit yung ginagawa yung ganoong behavior, it will become habitual. So kapag alam niya na kapag pinindot na yun ng paulit-ulit, and then makakalabas siya, and then feeling niya makaka-receive siya ng pagkain or yung tinatawag nating rewards. So another situation is that kapag yung pusa naman is may napindot doon na maglalagay sa kanya ng peligro, of course, hindi na yun gagawin ng pusa ulit. So the concept here is that kapag yung students natin is may nagawang mali inside the classroom, is hindi na nila yun gagawin ulit, di ba? So, the implication here is that the teacher should make an environment that is, of course, enjoyable as possible. So, the one way of doing that is, of course, by praising our or your student. Of course, especially those students who did their best. So, as a future educator, we are obliged to praise them as serve a motivation for them to receive more rewards and excel more inside the classroom. So, those are the 3 primary laws that introduced by Edward Thorndike. So now I will give the time to Miss Jordan to discuss with you the ADHD.
Good day everyone, I am Ana Lorraine Jordan, the third reporter. So my assigned topic is defining ADHD. ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. So when we say ADHD, it is one of the most common neurodevelopmental disorder of a childhood. So when we talk about neurodevelopmental disorder, it talks about the brain development. So it is usually first diagnosed in childhood and often classes into adulthood. So children with ADHD may have trouble paying attention. So it is a common symptoms of ADHD. So next is controlling impulsive behavior. So they act without thinking about what the result will be or be overly active. So, di ba kapag yung mga batang mayroong ADHD, hindi nila alam kung ano yung magiging resulta sa kanilang ginagawa. So, I have here an example of parenting strategies for children with ADHD. So, first is to provide positive attention. So, di ba as a parents, we need to provide attention in order sa mga bata na mafe-feel nila yung love natin at saka yung care. So, next one is to give effective instruction. So, pinaka-importante ito sa lahat para mas madali nilang maintindihan or maunawaan yung ating mga sinasabi sa kanila. Next is to praise your child's effort. So, ito, napakahalaga rin ito sa ating mga anak or sa ating mga what we call that, halimbawa sa mga cousin, di ba, na merong ginagawang maganda sa kanilang bahay. So, kailangan nating i-appreciate yon, bigyan natin ng value para mas lalo pa nilang gagalingan sa next na kanilang journey. So, next is to give established rewards. So, it is very important also. And use consistent consequences. So, yun nga, ito yung mga strategies para sa mga bata na mayroong ADHD. So, I hope you learn from this discussion. So, let's proceed to the next reporter.
Good morning, teacher and classmates. This is Glyza Go, your reporter for today for the symptoms of ADHD. Common ADHD symptoms include inattention, lack of focus, poor time management, weak impulse control. Inattention means a person may have difficulty staying on task, sustaining focus, and staying organized, and these problems are not due to defiance or lack of comprehension. The next is lack of focus. Kids with the inattentive kind of ADHD have a hard time concentrating and following instructions. They often forget and lose things. They can seem to organize or complete assignments or course. The next is poor time management. Adults with ADHD think about time differently or an ability to anticipate future rewards and consequences. These traits all contribute to to or trouble with deadlines, punctuality, and planning. The last is weak impulse control. Children with ADHD act before they think, often unable to control their initial response to a situation. The ability to self-regulate is compromised. They can't modify their behavior with future consequences in mind. And we have how to control or manage ADHD. We have get plenty of exercise, balanced diet, stay organized, learn to meditate, find ways to help you relax, talk with your teacher about your ADHD, pay attention to all the good things about you, and more to help you. The next reporter will continue to discuss the other symptoms of ADHD. Good day and thank you for listening.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, classmate. I am Judy Ann Sinilagalio. So, for today, I am going to continue the discussion about common ADHD symptoms. Continuation lang ni siya sa report ni Ate Glyza go. So, exaggerated emotion. So, exaggerated emotion, people who have ADHD frequently experience emotions so deeply that they become overwhelmed or flooded, that they may feel joy, anger, pain, or confusion. So, the next is hyperfocus. It's a state of intense concentration where you lose track of time to really enjoy. So example, children who are hyperfocused could be so busy playing video game or watching TV so that they don't hear someone calling their name repeatedly. The next one is hyperactivity. So children have ADHD symptoms, hyperactivity. They are being unable to sit still, especially in calm or quiet surroundings, being unable to concentrate on their task, interrupting conversation. So let's proceed to the last common ADHD symptom.
Good day everyone, I am Darlene William and today we are going to learn the types of ADHD. So what are the types of ADHD? First is hyperactive and impulsive type ADHD. People with hyperactive ADHD feel the need for constant movement. They often fidget, scream, and struggle to stay seated. So hyperactivity is just one sign of ADHD. People who have this kind of ADHD usually can't remain in the same place for a longer period of time. They always wanted to move because they can find it boring when to remain still at the same place and doesn't move around. Adults can also have this kind of ADHD, but it is less common for them. I know that most of us are familiar about what is hyperactive means. So, the person who always moves even in inappropriate situations is what we can call hyperactive. So how do we know if the person or a child has this kind of ADHD? So first is yung sobrang kulit nila na kahit ilang minuto ng pagstay ay hindi nila magagawa. They always wanted to get out of the room or in the classroom. And also they always wanted to runs around and climbs, which can lead them into danger. And another one is they're too loud and talkative. And they don't let you finish your sentence and questions. They always interrupts you, and when you are telling your sentence or your questions to them, they already answering it, and they already completing your sentences. So, hyperactive students or persons cannot wait their time or their turn. They always either in a conversations, in works, or when they are waiting in line. And lastly, hyperactive persons always interrupts and intrudes other people. Just like for example, they always butts into others' conversations even though they are not belong into it. And also they always using other people's things, which is they have not permissions, or they have not given any permissions to it. And when you have encountered this kind of person which have this kind of behaviors, so they might have hyperactive and impulsive type of ADHD. The second part of the ADHD is that inattentive type ADHD. People with inattentive ADHD make careless mistakes because they have difficulty sustaining attention, following detailed instructions, and organizing tasks and activities. So when we say inattentive, it refers to the person who doesn't pay any attentions to his works, to class, and to conversations, or etc. So when a person is inattentive, or they fail to pay attentions into certain situations, so they might make careless mistakes because they have missed some of the details or the informations that can lead them into inappropriate words. So we know that it is very important to be active and attentive because it can lead us to positive outcomes and success. So one of the symptoms of these types of ADHD is that when a person doesn't follow instructions, or they fail to finish any task or works. Just like for examples, there are
Good day, everyone. My name is Mara Alona Grace Silim. My topic is all about type of ADHD. The third types of ADHD is combined type ADHD. When we say combined type of ADHD is people with combined type ADHD demonstrate 6 or more symptoms of inattention and 6 or more symptoms of hyperactivity and impulsivity. As the name implies, combined type ADHD is when a person presently presents with the symptoms of both attention and hyperactivity impulsivity. A person's behavior may indicate trusted source, the subtype, if they meet sufficient criteria for both the inattentive and hyperactive impulsive subtypes. Children with combined type ADHD may trusted source have difficult paying attention in school and find it hard to stay seated during class or social gatherings. Adults with combined type ADHD may have trouble managing tasks and maintaining relationships. And that's all. Thank you.
It's all about changing phase ADHD from childhood to adulthood. So I have 6 symptoms of ADHD. So the first one is hyperactivity. When we say hyperactivity, that means a person may seem to move about constantly, including in situations when it's not appropriate or excessively fidget, taps, or talk. From hyperactivity to become a restlessness. So when you say restlessness, that means affect your mental state and be experienced as an inability to remain at rest, difficulty in concentrating, something like that. Physical impulsivity When we say physical impulsivity, that means doing things that result in a lot of injuries, problems, waiting one's return. From physical impulsivity, they come to verbal impulsivity. So when we say verbal impulsivity, that means he acts in which the person says things without thinking and without measuring the consequences. So the last is inattention. So when we say inattention, a person may have difficulty staying on task, sustaining focus, and staying organized. So inattention become to inattention also. So when we say inattention, difficulty concentrating at work, problems, finishing.
People with ADHD often experience sensory overload and have increased awareness at stimuli. They are unable to distinguish between what requires focus and what is simply noise, and hence what have difficulty focusing. Mental conditions often presents with few physical symptoms, making it difficult for people who are not exposed to it to understand what is happening and why it happens. Today, I am aimed to explore and to explain to you what exactly happens in the brains of people with ADHD. ADHD typically involves a deficit of neuroprincipal activity in four specific sections of the brain. They are limbic system, basal ganglia, frontal cortex, and reticular activity system or RAS. In the four specific sections of the brain that I tell you earlier, I will explain to you on how ADHD affects the brain in the section of prefrontal cortex and reticular activating system. Prefrontal cortex manage and control high-level functioning such as directing and organizing attentions as well as executive functions and more. In the four specific sections of our brain, prefrontal cortex helps us to be focused on the things what we do. Example po nito ay yung sa eskwelahan tayo, yung teacher natin ay nagbigay ng quiz. Siyempre, siya ay magbibigay ng instructions. Ito si prefrontal cortex, siya yung magtutulong sa atin na tayo ay maging focus doon sa sinasabi ng ating teacher, sa sinasabi niyang directions kung paano sagutan yung quiz. In people or students who have ADHD that their brain got affected, especially their prefrontal cortex, it results to they are short-tempered, they are lack of alertness, they are short-term memory, and does not follow through on instructions. Diba, napapansin nyo, yung mga estudyante, especially in SPED school or special educations, are the people or students who have ADHD, habang yung teacher nagsasalita sa harapan, yung mga estudyante ay hindi nakakinig. Yung iba nakatingin doon. Ganun yung epekto ng ADHD sa prefrontal cortex ng bata. So, this is why ADHD individuals have diminished focus. Again, there is a significant difficulty in organizing the brain performance of any activity which requires planning of more than one step because of behavior which is strongly guided by impulsivity and the experience difficulty in being still or in one place. The next section of the brain that got affected by ADHD is the reticular activating system. Reticular activating system is responsible for our arousal and our wake up and sleep cycle. People with ADHD, their brain got affected, especially their reticular activating system. In result to this, they are most likely to like to interrupt or intrude in someone's conversation. They are also blurts out answer before the question got completed. It also affects their attentions and also their impulse control. Diba, napapansin nyo yung mga bata o yung taong may ADHD, kahit di sila yung kausap, basta narinig nila yung ibang tao na nag-uusap at alam nila yung sagot, mag-i-interrupt talaga yung sila at ipagpilitan nila yung answer nila. Ganun yung epekto ng ADHD sa utak ng isang tao.
Hello everyone, I am Angeline Leocario and I am going to report how ADHD affects the brain. Since Ms. Importante already reported the prefrontal cortex and reticular activating system, I will continue the report of basal ganglia and limbic system. Most of the situation, we can see very clear the ADHD if the child is at the school or classroom. In classroom, we do the very basic and common task, which is listening, sitting still, be quiet, concentrating. We can discover the person with ADHD if it has a difficulty in focusing. Let's proceed into basal ganglia. Basal ganglia helps regulate communication within the brain. In basal ganglia, it helps us to move our muscle. It helps regulate communication within the brain. Basal ganglia is the reason why we're able to move our body, do the tasks and activities. But if the brain has ADHD, it may cause problem in many ways, like having a listening difficulties, not following instructions, making careless in the works and tasks. They are very easily distracted, easily get bored, forgetting or losing things, leaving their seats without permission. They create extra movements. Children has ADHD are hardly control themselves. They swing and switch emotions all the time. They cannot take things very seriously too. Let's proceed to limbic system and how ADHD ruin it. Limbic system. Limbic system is responsible for regulating emotions. What will happen if the limbic system has ADHD? The child with ADHD is not good at controlling their emotions. They are very sensitive, they get excited easily, get angry easily, and they are showing their emotions, or so we call emotional dysregulation. The person who has ADHD having a mood swing, they get upset easily, being angry in very little tiny things because they cannot handle their emotions. They are restless, throwing tantrums. They sometimes having difficulties in making communication with their peers. They experience low self-esteem, anxiety, and depression. ADHD might result in inattention to and forgetting things.